Your first one will be Chris Neef, front left.
Hey, James. Can you talk about your relationship with Coach Knighton as well as the other defensive coaches from Nebraska? I know you and Coach Knighton are pretty tight.
For sure. I'm pretty sure the relationship between me and Coach Knighton is pretty well documented at this point. I see him as a father figure and even closer to a father. You know, he's seen me go through a lot and a lot of different adversity, and the fact that he stood by me through so much going on in his personal life, like lots of different stuff that he's going through, and he incorporates me in all of that, just means the most to me. But not even just Coach Knighton, you know, really, I have a really great relationship with Coach White as well. I feel like he's, since the moment I met him, really believed in me, and really taken the time to take care of me and make sure that I'm always taken care of. And then Coach Potenza and Coach Miguel as well. I have great relationships with them as well. I worked with Coach Potenza, Coach Jack the first time, or my first year at Nebraska when he was still with the D-line. He was with the outside linebackers last year, but he'll be returning with the D-line this year. And then Coach Miguel is obviously a linebacker coach. So just now, like, I do have a really good relationship with him. I just, you know, obviously it's not every day that I see him, so.
All right, we'll stay there for Brendan.
Who came up with your nickname? And I don't know, Sack Man. I guess what do you prefer? And who came up with it?
So that would be T Knight. The only person who ever gave themselves their own nickname would be Kobe, and I'm not Kobe also. But no, T Knight just randomly one meeting right before my first ever sack, like the first game I ever got a sack in against Northwestern. Just randomly called me Sack Man, and it just started to stick around the building. So I guess it's merchandisable now. So.
All right, next will be Liam, second row on your left.
Can you talk about your role, especially in this 3-3-5 defense, and kind of how the adjustments need to take place? And have you been kind of, you know, talking to any of the guys who've had questions about the new system?
Yeah, for sure. I think the great thing and the genius about Coach White is that although this is a 3-3-5 defense, he's very multiple. You know, he doesn't just focus on just the 3-3-5 and sticking to it, even if it doesn't work. He is someone who sees the personnel around him and what he has and will adjust to that. If we are a faster group, he'll play a faster kind of defense. If we're a bigger group, he'll play a bigger kind of defense. He's not someone who you have to adjust to his system, although that partly is true. You know, he'll always incorporate what kind of talent he has. And I think, like, in my first couple of weeks here, experiencing like some of the talent that we have at DB and linebacker that no offense to Nebraska, but like we may not have had there, and like the depth that we have, I think like he's going to have a lot of fun being able to play around with that and disguise coverages and you know, sub in different packages and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to Nebraska, which he was doing, but you know, we don't always have the one-for-one need at every position.
We'll go to Ira, second row on your right.
Could you kind of talk us through how they used you last year in that defense, and maybe how you expect your role to expand maybe as you guys come here?
Yeah, so I think the next step for me is growing as a player. So obviously, like my first year, I was specifically just the dime, third down, hey, like get him on the ground type guy. Would play like 10 snaps a game, just specifically on third and long. I think last year it was kind of the same deal, but it wasn't. It was a little different. Like if he would play the hot hand. We obviously had a deep group at D-line. Ty and Nash, I think, are going to be really dominant players in the NFL. I think Jamari's going to have a good year at LSU, and you know, like Kai and Vincent and all these other guys that were behind me. Like there's just so much depth, and we have a lot of good players in that room that he's like, okay, whoever's playing well at this particular time will play. So there'd be times that I would play like let's say against Colorado when we know Shador is going to try and throw the ball out to Travis, right? Like I'll play predominant number of that game, but like if we're playing Ohio State and we're in the horseshoe, like that's a big moment. Why would you not want your experienced veterans like Ty, Nash, and Jamari in there? So like they would play a lot. Obviously, it's a little different this year. We're a little bit different as a group. We got a lot of young guys in the room who I think can be really talented. So I think like a lot of that is just going to be like my veteran presence helping them out. But I think it could be a lot of a similar thing. T Knight's not someone who just plays like the old guys or the seniors just because he feels obligated to. He'll play whoever's good at football.
All right, we'll go to Aswan, back row on your right.
James, you talked about Coach Knight and your guys' relationship. Are you comfortable at all talking about kind of the events that have made you into the man that you are now, and how much he's played into that? And if you're not, can you just maybe walk us through just being recruited, going to junior college, and then picking Nebraska, and then picking here?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that is like, obviously, like, I wasn't highly recruited out of high school. No one knew who I was when I first appeared on the scene. So I think a lot of that is like his belief in me, him and Coach White, just like taking a chance on me. Like, I was a kid who just showed up at a summer camp and they were like, hey, like, come join our Division I football program. This wasn't like I was joining the YMCA or something like that. So like that kind of belief in me, the fact that like there was like a bit of like a delay in my maturity process, and like being able to like do stuff the way they want it done, and like they didn't like just bail on me, and they stood by me. And then there's also a bunch of other matters that I won't get into, but it's just like, I think like the way the belief that they've always had in me, not always saying like, hey, I believe in you, but it's also like, hey, like they're not gonna hold my hand into everything, but they'll also like, they'll let me know like that I'm still loved, which is awesome.
All right, we'll go to Jordan, third row on your left.
James, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first time living in the South, obviously from Missouri and Iowa and Nebraska. Just what's that transition been like for you to Tallahassee as a whole, and then also just joining a new football team?
It's great, man. 70 degrees outside in the middle of January. I'm not used to that. It's also like, I mean, it snowed here, obviously, for the first time in what, like 30 years, and you guys, the entire town was shut down for 30-degree weather. So that's just like, I don't know, that's just like stuff I'm used to. Like, that's just like everyday stuff in Nebraska. But it's nice. I really like it. I'm obviously going to need to get used to the humidity in the summer. So, like the fall, when we get to fall camp and we're in Jacksonville, I'm excited for that, just to be able to get used to it. Like the furthest south I've ever lived was in Oklahoma. So like obviously like the topography and the climate is going to be significantly different. But getting ready for Alabama on the 30th is my #1 priority, and that includes being able to withstand the heat down here and just getting used to that. So although I am glad that it's 70 degrees outside in the middle of January, when it's 110 in the middle of August, I'm going to need to be ready for that. So.
All right, we'll go back to Brendan, front row.
You touched on it a little bit about how your role has expanded a little bit year over year, and imagine the next step is for that to continue to expand. I guess what goes into that physically, mentally, like what do you see for yourself as the next steps for you as a player?
Obviously being a leader in the room. Like I told you guys, there's a lot of young guys in the room who I think are very talented, but obviously like experience is the biggest thing at this level. There's a reason Penn State is the odds-on favorite to win the national championship, as was Ohio State the year before and Michigan the year before. They brought back the most experience. The experience is like the biggest thing because of how changing the landscape of college football is. You're always like, you're never with the same guys. There are always going to be 15 to 20 people who come into the team every single year who are different and will leave every single year. You'll never finish with the same guys that you started off with. So I think like me being a leader in the room is probably the biggest thing, and Daryl helps a lot with that. You know, like you can tell that he's an experienced, like he already is like an NFL vet. It feels like to me, the way he carries himself, the way he works. I think like watching him and how he commands the room and commands the team. Really, I really feel like he's like one of the best team leaders. I think that's like the biggest thing for us, and that's what we need, because that was what gave us success at Nebraska. Like when Ty, who we knew would be a dominant NFL player at some point, would command the room and be like, hey, this is what we need, this is what we don't need. Like he's like, hey, we're not going 2-10 again this year. Like we're not going to let like little mistakes add up and build up.
Next will be Peter, second row on your left.
Hey James, what would you say was the best advice from Coach Knighton or even from Coach White that really stood by you throughout being coached by them, or what the best teaching method that you really take from them by being coached by them?
I feel like it's a cliche answer, but still working hard. T. Knight's a very big advocator and like supporter of what Kobe does. You know, he's up here at 4:30 in the morning working out almost every single day, as long as he's not out recruiting. I take a lot from that. I'm someone who likes to work later on in the day, but like just making sure that like I get the extra amount of work every single day. You know, like I'm not just here to like be a recruiting face for you guys. I'm here to like dominate against Alabama. You know, like, and I want to like I want to like make sure like, hey, I'm not just good against Wake Forest. I'm ready for like Clemson and Miami and all those big games that we have, and Florida at the end of the year. Like making sure that my body is ready and making sure that I'm specifically ready for the entirety of the season, and just like the extra work that goes into that, I feel like is like the #1 thing that he taught me, because like the amount that I do now doesn't separate me from everyone else, because everyone else is always lifting, and everyone does tour of duty, and everyone does like a couple of like running drills in the morning. Like that doesn't separate me from everyone else, and that's not like, I don't want to be like everyone else.
All right, we'll go back to Aslan in the back.
James, can you go back to that summer camp when you met Coach Knight, and like, did you know the night before, we were like, I got to get a good night's rest. This is going to be a big day for me. Like, did you realize it was going to potentially change your life? Like, how much stock did you put into that day, and when did you start playing football, and where were you in your journey at that point?
Yeah, I don't really get nervous for those kind of moments, so I don't want to say I was like nervous the night before, but I will say that like when I got there was only 2 people doing D-line drills, so it's like he's actually going to notice me, as opposed to like if you go to any other football camp in the middle of summer, there's 100 kids, like maybe he even takes a chance at noticing me. But like I think once I got there and like realized that like he actually genuinely cared, he wasn't just out there because like Coach Norvell forced him to be out there for his football camps, that way he got paid. Like I actually thought that like meant a lot to me, and like I was like, okay, well now I actually have a chance to do something with this. So but yeah, I wasn't ever nervous for it.
All right, last one will be Ira, second row on your right.
When you were at Nebraska, they unveiled that new facility. What did that do for the players? I mean, a lot of times I think fans and media think those things are just for recruiting. Was it helpful? And have you looked at what Florida State's building, and do you think that'll be helpful for you guys?
For sure. It's actually funny you asked that. The exact same time around when Steph got here to Nebraska last year, we were kind of in the same boat. It's like 1 for 1, really. Like at Florida State and Nebraska, like that first semester, that spring semester, we share the facilities with everyone else. We have like a locker room that's right next to where everyone else is. We have the same, like the nutrition staff serves all the same people, and we were in the process of building a new facility. I think when that facility got built, like things really changed inside the building. It's like, hey, now we're not just one of the sports, we're the predominant sport. And Nebraska's facility was very cutting edge. Like I know Steph told y'all they had sleeping pods, and the hot tub area, which will be really nice. But like at the same time, like I've seen some of the concept for it. Like there were different recoveries and stuff that we can get is next level, and like I think that'll really help change this season. Especially like I saw in November, we have 5 games, like including one against NC State on Friday. Like those will be really important games to get recovered and healed up for and rested for. And I think like this new facility will allow that. Just like seeing some of the concept art. Obviously, it's not done yet, but it's so funny that you say that, because it's literally just like how it was at Nebraska. Like we just got the new facility completely finished right before the last season started, and it really helped us. Like the walkthrough rooms that we were able to do, because that's Coach White's big thing, is that we want to make sure we get a lot of walkthroughs in. We want to make sure that we get a lot of extra practice in, so that way everybody, like there's no missed assignments or anything like that. And then like the different kind of like meeting rooms and stuff like that. I think it'll be a real game changer when it finally comes.
All right, thanks, James.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.